We have the battle of the best two 98s on the market today. We have the Aero 98 and the new pretender, the Gravity 98 Tour.
But which one is best? We are putting these rackets up against each other because they are very similar in terms of spec.
They are indeed. They are, of course, both 98 square inch heads. Clues in the name. They are 305 grams.
This bad boy has got an extra cross string. It is a 1620 pattern as opposed to the 1619 in the Gravity.
What does that mean?
Well, we'll see, Josh. The tighter bed should probably mean a touch more control. But you've got a spin frame versus a kind of all-rounder, control-y sort of frame, so we'll see. Let's get on court. Let's put them through their paces. Let's see which one comes out on top.
We have strung both rackets with Restrings Aero 1.23, one of our favourite strings, and they're both strung at £50, so a fair comparison, just putting the frames through their paces. Are you ready?
Let's go. We've just come off court, putting the new head Gravity 98 up against the Aero 98.
Yeah, and the Aero 98 is one of our favourite rackets. It often gets into our top fives, often gets into our best rackets of the year. I think it's probably the best Babolat racket of the current range.
Yeah.
New Pure Drive 2025 notwithstanding. And so it was a tall order for the Gravity to kind of come up against it. And in my first thoughts, if I had a match, I would choose the Aero every time.
Yes, and I agree. Put simply, it's just much easier to pick up and play with. These are not rackets that we use, so we're trying something that's essentially a fresh, and the Aero is much easier to use, and you'll see how we mean a little bit as we go into the categories.
Should we do that?
Let's do that.
Let's. Power, the most important thing you need on a tennis court to break through your opponent, and that comes from the stiffness of the racket, the string setup, obviously the string itself, and the thickness and beam width of the frame, allowing you to punch through the ball and dominate your opponent.
And the Aero has an advantage in terms of its composition. It's stiffer, it's thicker, and it is more powerful as a result.
It is. As we said at the start, it's got the same strings in, so there's no kind of string variance between them. And put quite simply, on all shots and all areas of the court, the Aero is a more powerful racket than the new Gravity.
Even with the extra cross.
Even with the extra cross, that is true. And which is odd, right? Because obviously in a spin frame, often you have less strings to get bigger gaps, more string movement, more spin. In this one, obviously, with that slightly more closed string pattern from the 20th cross, but it certainly doesn't impact its power potential.
Yes, and obviously with an Aero in hand, we must talk about spin, albeit some might argue that the 98 is less spinny and maybe not a spin racket, if some of you in the comments have said on some of the videos. But spin!
It's going to be okay. Yeah, and I think partly from that 20th cross, right, makes it less spinny, more into a control racket, 98 square inch head. So it's a 98 within a spin family.
Yes, and in terms of spin, far easier to generate spin with the Aero than it is with the Gravity 98.
Far easier.
Yes.
I would say not often when we do these across the categories, we think they're very similar and it's tight to call, but so far of power and spin, the Aero is head and shoulders, I would say.
Yes, undoubtedly. Something about air, distance, space, better, more space, Aero, Gravity.
Gravity. Yeah, that'd be good.
That would be good.
Well, back down to earth.
Yes. Oh, that was very good. Back down to earth.
So, control. This is where the Gravity should take over.
Sometimes it does. So I think that playing the ball flat, driving through it, I think you have great amount of control of Gravity. And I would actually say, as an overall thing, this is a control racket to me. And I think you get greater control. However, if you're generating your control, if you're managing the outcome of the ball, and that's what you're thinking about the control, and you play with a lot of topspin, then you're going to be able to control the outcome better with the Aero, as I found.
Yeah, I think if we talk launch angle, this certainly has a higher one.
Love talking launch angle.
So if you play flatter, lower, really accelerate the ball, have a long swing, you get control out of the Gravity. That's when it comes into its own. The Aero, you start to spray balls a bit. So when we were playing and I kind of went to like lengthening my swing and play a bit flatter to see how the Aero then starts to, if you lose some spin, it just starts to really push long. The gravity kind of really stays in contact with the ball a bit longer, and you feel that control as you go.
Yes. Excellent. On to touch and feel.
So when we played, Joe was trying to hit a lot. There's no clips of it, is there? It's annoying.
Didn't try. Successfully played a lot of drop shots.
/ miss hits the bounce in the service box. So when it comes to feel, we have Heads Auxetic 2.0 up against Flax.
Yeah.
From Babolat. And when it comes to the feel, if we talk about on impact, so through your hands as you play, the Babolat feels more stable, more solid, but you get less feedback.
Yes, agreed.
The gravity, you get a bit more feel through your hands, so it's easier to manipulate the ball, but it's a sort of racket where I put a dampener on it.
Yes, I think I found that if you're talking about touch in terms of, again, sort of in terms of outcome, are you able to play those little drop shots? Are you able to sort of guide around? Yeah. Actually did a really beautiful job, really manoeuvrable, really good.
Better than the Aero.
Yes, standing at the back of the court in terms of the ball on strings, I much prefer the feel of the Aero.
Yeah, it's more solid. It feels more substantial.
Yes, which it is. I mean, you can literally see that it's more substantial.
Yeah, and that's where you get obviously the power and spin from, and that feeling of stability. But you lose out on the control and the feel and the guile around the net that you gain from the gravity.
Yes. Overall, Josh, it's a win for the Aero on power and on spin.
Yep.
For control and precision, depends on the type of control and precision you're looking for and the way you're playing.
But gravity would get it.
Yeah. In terms of touch and feel, again, I'd say an even split.
Yeah.
Again, just depending, as we've gone through in the category before,
like about it.
What you like, what you're looking for, and how it feels to you.
But as I said, if it was me and I was choosing between these two rackets, I would pick the Aero every time and twice on Sunday. That's a good one, though.
Yeah, I loved it. It was terrible. That's why I loved it.
So awful.
Yeah,
and even if I was, the only time maybe I'd be tempted if I was playing indoors on a really quick surface and I didn't need any help generating power and it was live, then maybe you'd want that gravity.
I'd still take. Personally, I'd still take the Aero.
Yeah. So, if you are the sort of player who has a long, aggressive flat swing, the new Gravity 8 Tour might be worth trying. If you currently use the Aero 98 and love it, it's probably unlikely this is going to dethrone your racket of choice.
Yes.
As always, make up your own opinion. These are all available to demo, so make sure you try and see which ones you like. Don't just take our word for it, but the Aero is brilliant.
As always, don't forget to like, follow, share with your friends, and definitely subscribe so you never miss a thing from PH Tennis.